DILLIAN the Body Snatcher White here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so on July the 28th, we have DILLIAN WHYTE going up against Joseph Parker in a fantastic fight, arguably the second biggest heavyweight fight that you could possibly make right now, obviously behind Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Now, there was talk when this fight was announced that they're going to try and get it for the WBO interim title. So, in other words, that the winner of this could become like the number one. And fact being, because Alexander Povetkin is currently number one, but he's also the mandatory for the WBA. So it's almost pointless him becoming a mandatory for WBO because he's activating his WBA mandatory clause, right? So anyway, this is what the WBO had to say. Please be advised that the WBO does not sanction interim championships except under extraordinary circumstances which currently are not present in the heavyweight division. And this was by WBO President Paco Valcárcel. Okay, so basically it's not going to be for a final eliminator or anything like that. Now, it's a bit harsh because DILLIAN WHYTE is ranked number 2 in the WBO. And Joseph Parker is, of course, their former champion. Now, the WBO, they do like to give out rankings and mandatories like sweets. You know, they give it to David Haye. He'd never earned it by beating Mark Demori and Arnold Jajai, of all people. And they made him mandatory. Okay? When Haye went on to fight Tony Bellew, they installed Hughie Fury as mandatory. Even though he'd done bugger all for the best part of nearly 2 years. So it's a bit odd. It's a bit odd, it really is. But either way, I mean, for me, this fight doesn't need a title. It doesn't need an elimination or anything like that. I mean, fact is, whoever wins this fight is going to move up in the rankings anyway. They won't overtake Povetkin. He is number 1, of course. But DILLIAN WHYTE will solidify himself as number 2. And as and when the Joshua Povetkin fight happens, Joshua wins, Povetkin will be dropped from the WBO. Maybe not totally, but he'll certainly drop a few places. So DILLIAN WHYTE will become number 1 there anyway. If Joseph Parker was to win, he could well just replace DILLIAN WHYTE as number 2. So when Povetkin loses, if he was to lose, of course, then he would replace as number 1 anyway. So ultimately, they're just saying that they're not going to create a silver championship is what they're saying, like the WBC do. Because DILLIAN WHYTE is number 1 by the WBC, the current silver champion. Okay, and he should be the mandatory, but WBC screwed about, and of course put Dominic Brazil in there, which is absolutely insane. But that's the WBC for you, and the WBO, like I said, they have a criteria that, to be honest, nobody in the world knows what the WBO criteria is. They will install people as mandatory for doing nothing, literally nothing. And that's what David Haye done, and that's what Hughie Fury done. And I don't want to be rude to either of them, but who did they beat to become mandatory? What did they do? They didn't do anything. After a 3.5-year layoff, David Haye comes back and gets 2 bum fights. Mark Demori, who learned to fight on YouTube, and Arnold Jajai, that nobody in damn boxing world ever heard of, except him being a sparring partner for Klitschko and Tyson Fury at one time. But he becomes mandatory. He then fights Bellew, as I've already said. Then Hughie Fury, after not fighting for, well over a year, he then becomes mandatory. Absolutely outrageous. But that's a WBO for you. And for me, I thought that, they may well look at this and think, well, DILLIAN WHYTE is number 2. Povetkin is activating his WBA. And Joseph Parker is our former champion. So, I don't know. But either way, that's not what's going to be happening. Unless anything changes between now and then, they won't be. So this will just be a heavyweight fight, and ultimately it will be for number 1 at some point. So either way, drop your thoughts below as to WBO's ruling. Do you think that this fight needed a title or an eliminator of any kind? Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.